Good afternoon, folks. It is time for another semi-rant about Warhammer 40,000 and its lore and how it is going off the rails in a very quick jaunt. As you know, with my show, with my channel, I try to keep things in a more balanced and thought-out way than simply complaining about everything all of the time. And so this video will not be wholly negative. There are certain parts of the Warhammer 40,000 experience in terms of the lore that I really like. But before we get into that, if you like what I do, subscribe box is down below. If you like what I do even more, then the Patreon box is also down below. And if you need some help with anything that you need, or you need to talk to somebody, the Discord is also down below. It is free. Please join it. We can always help. Get on there. Have some fun. So, I can tell by the title of the video, this video is called 40k Power Levels, Absolute Nonsense, or something therein. We've all seen the memes, right? You've all seen the memes, read the content, and you've dunked on fans from less cool and more cringe sci-fi universes. Hello Star Wars and Mass Effect, we see you and your pathetic levels of power. But has the wanton power surge of 40k lore run its course? And why did it get this way in the first place? Why is it so powerful? What I mean by that is, I don't mean powerful from a, oh my god, I feel so, it's really got me in the chest, oh my god, I've got such feelings for this. I mean powerful as in the actual level of power within the lore itself. Starships, planet-sized defense systems, armies, guns, the lot, right? The whole kit and caboodle. How did it get that way in the first place? Because it didn't start that way in Rogue Trader. It didn't start as an overpowered thing at all. It actually started as a bit of a Dune rip-off, to be honest with you. But let's have a short listen to me ranting about this subject, and why I think the days of 40k being absurdly over-the-top powerful have perhaps highlighted some of its key weaknesses. So, first things first, if we're going to go over the weaknesses, we've got to go over its strengths. So what are the strengths of this power creep? And yes, that is what it is, a power creep. You know that feeling when you open a new codex, Leagues of Atan, for example, and find the army is completely beyond the pale in terms of power? Well, the lore has to keep up with that. In fact, we see most problems arise when the lore outpaces the rules of the models on the tabletop. You've all heard my rants about Grey Knights, and how they are one of the most elegant and great armies in the game to play from a rule standpoint, but their power level is minuscule compared to their lore counterparts. I've only on a handful of occasions actually felt like I was playing Grey Knights, and those times when I was playing against demons, and even those times were few and far between. So why is this a strength? Well, it means, in a messy way, the lore is a key driving engine behind the rules becoming more and more obscene as any edition of Warhammer 40,000 trundles on. Ever wonder why we even do new editions and not just patches updating the old rules? That's because at some point the rules have nowhere else to go. It becomes too egregious even for Games Workshop to release new content that gets even more powerful, so they pull the plug and start the process all over again. Printing money, and on it goes. Lore fits into this, as the 40k lore directly feeds this ravenous appetite for more. More powerful rules, more ridiculous things in the lore that we get to play with on the tabletop, more wantonly overpowered factions and battles in which we can see heroes clashing that we get to take part in. If the game of 40k is an engine, the lore is the fuel within that engine driving each piston and gear change. If you don't like power creep in Warhammer 40,000, then you likely have some serious issues with its overall lore also. To be fair though, it's cool though, isn't it? It is nice being the big boys in the room, and make no mistake, we are the big boys in the room of sci-fi. No other sci-fi or fantasy setting could hold a candle to Warhammer 40,000 for sheer audacious power levels in its setting. Our setting even has a built-in rule that literally is like, well, if all else fails, if we believe something hard enough, it happens. Which is the most badass get-out-of-jail-free card I have ever heard. Let's also talk about the concept of canon. and how Games Workshop nearly always play with it as a malleable and changing thing, ensuring it belongs to no one, and that in essence, the setting is as powerful as you want to make it. This, of course, like most things Games Workshop, flies in the face of their ridiculous protection of their copyright. Despite stealing their ideas from other universes, Dune, Starship Troopers, Berserk, Griffith, Alien, to name just 4, and highlight the dual souls of Games Workshop. In everything Games Workshop do, there is like a bipolar way that they do it, right? On one hand, they want you to express yourself creatively, to embrace and celebrate the hobby by making your own stuff, which is great. On the other hand, if you dare release anything, even for free, that has their content within it, you can expect them to throw the legal book at you and attempt to put you financially on life support for daring to cross their precious intellectual property. I mean, guys, I've written a Codex Astral Blades. I've literally written a Codex Astral Blades. It's here on my Google Drive. I'd never be able to release it and share it with you, even for free of charge, for fear of getting that letter through my door from Games Workshop. So whilst having such an insane setting is undoubtedly cool and something that should be celebrated, it can also lead to things going a bit haywire at all the wrong moments. So let's explore what can happen if the lore goes off the rails. So the breaking of a setting. This is how a setting breaks. So we've read 40k lore to know that there are gaps there. We've all done it, right? Gaps where the lore contradicts itself in a way that even the Games Workshop excuse of nothing is canon, it's propaganda, make of it what you will, fails to cover completely. For instance, the Hive Worlds and Hive Cities. These cities, by the lore, its own accounting, house countless billions of people, and Imperial Guard regiments from these worlds are said to drain their manpower. In the new Astra Militarum Codex, like the last one that came out, right? It was said to drain their manpower. How exactly? How do you drain the manpower of an entire hive world with billions of people on it? How do you clothe an Imperial Guard regiment that drains the manpower of a city that houses tens of billions of people? You literally now have about 5 billion Imperial Guardsmen to feed, clothe, arm, train, and then ferry then to wherever they're needed from a single hive world. There are countless examples within 40k lore when the setting begins to creak under the weight of its own reeking sense of awesome. Most people can overlook these things, but I cannot. Am I being pedantic? Yes. Am I somebody who teaches history and writing for a living? Also yes. So I'm going to approach it with a critical eye and a fine-tooth comb. I realise this. But that doesn't disqualify what I'm saying here. There is a reason I don't watch Critical Role or get sucked into playing Divinity 2 Original Sin, despite liking the two genres that those things are a part of, right? Because those settings don't take themselves seriously. Why should I then, if you don't? If the writer doesn't take their setting seriously, why the hell should I? I mean, both of those settings have walking skeletons that act like English aristocrats, talking cats, and anthropomorphic lizards. There are no rules in the setting, no set boundaries. When I approach such a world and I kick over a rock or a stone, if I approach these settings, I will see the wooden boards of a Hollywood set underneath. If I go into a forest in D&D, most D&D settings, or in Divinity 2, I walk into a forest, right, and I pick up a rock. Underneath, I will see a Hollywood set. Walk boards of a Hollywood set. Right? When I do that, I don't want to see that. I want to turn over the rock, and I want to see mud, worms, ants. I want it to look and feel real to read. This was the strength of Lord of the Rings, and every great fantasy or sci-fi epic that this follows those rules of the world being a real place you can see or touch, even if it has nonsense magic systems. What I'm trying to say is, before I've gone blathering off there, right? Every single setting that is a major success in what we're looking at here, You are able to turn over rocks and pieces of shrubbery and things like that in the setting and see the soil underneath. You can see what's growing there. You can see that this world is real to touch in your mind. 40k is beginning to fall into the former category. It's beginning to become a meme of itself, as we've covered in other videos, with its ridiculous intellectual power creep that only feeds into bigger and badder rules in more and more expensive codexes and supplements books. 40k has extremely loose and almost no rules within its fiction, because if those rules existed in the way that I've just postulated, it would place a hard cap on how ridiculous certain pieces of lore, and by extension the rules and the models that accompany them, can be. So the minute 40k starts to hold to its own intellectual integrity and starts to actually wind itself in, wind its own neck in, and actually give you a setting that is actually, wow, it's tangible, it's there, you can feel it. The minute it starts doing that, the minute it starts to lose the power of selling you more and more and more powerful stuff, right? Because now things have a limit. Do you ever wonder why the fan base of Lord of the Rings, the strategy battle game, is much older than 40k in general? Because it is. That's because older people have a much better time without power. They don't need power. They want to tell stories on the tabletop. They want to have a good time. Right? There's a tournament scene in Lord of the Rings, but it's nowhere near as massive as 40k. There's a very good reason for that, right? There is a meta power creep in 40k, but there is also a meta power creep in 40k's lore. And that's what I'm pointing at here and saying, we don't need this. We don't need the meta power creep in 40k's lore at all. There are glaring errors between model and faction. Grey Knights and Custodes being an example, where to bring an army out resembling the lore would essentially end the competitive play scene for that edition. But most of the time, Games Workshop are very adept at linking rules and lore together. But this is a bad thing, because the lore is power creep nonsense designed to enable trigger-happy, cash-chasing rules writers. We have not even covered in this video, and we won't because the video will go on for hours, but we haven't even covered the wanton power climb of the Imperium or anything like that. We have not touched on the infuriating way Games Workshop treats its characters. Every battle has no stakes. You know both characters are walking away from a duel just fine, thanks to the fact that Games Workshop want to sell you models of them, and they don't trust you not to buy them if they dare lose to anybody. Right? Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. If your character lost to somebody in the lore fair and square, and were left there just to do nothing, right? Would you go and buy that model? Probably not, right? There's a lot of you saying, well, it would sour it for me a little bit, yeah. And you would at least be a little bit salty that your character lost to somebody. There is always, I even read, and please correct me, please go in the description below and correct me. I read of a Black Templar guy, I think it was Halbrecht, and he is going up against Trans in the Infinite or somebody like that, and he loses a hand to him and loses a duel to him, essentially, right? Okay, fine, still walks away just fine with a bionic hand. He then comes back literally a couple of years later and pushes his shit in a campaign, essentially, to readdress the balance, right? You can never have one character straight up losing to another, or nobody will buy that character. They don't trust you to have a brain and to be able to think critically about the lore and the power levels therein. And realistically, a Necron Lord who is well over 10,000 years old should be beating a random Space Marine general. He just should be. I don't care how powerful you are. But the lore, the guys there, they can't let you read that. If you read that, then you'll be kicking your pacifier out of your mouth, and you'll be rending your garment saying, well, hang on, this is my guy, and he lost to this Necron guy? Screw that, I'm not buying these, right? They don't trust you. They do not trust you not to buy things unless they cater to you. Everybody is going to have their time in the sun. Everybody has to feel like this sandbox you're playing in is theirs. And whilst I really do appreciate that attitude, I also think that it is to the detriment of the lore as a whole moving forwards. I mean, are you sick of Abaddon the Spoiler never actually killing anyone of note or doing anything that sticks? And Cadia doesn't count. Cadia does not count. Right, that was an accident of all things. That's ridiculous. It was just a ridiculous piece of lore, right? Cadia doesn't count. Are you sick of him doing nothing? I'm sick of him doing nothing. I'm sick of him not killing anybody. But as soon as you read any codex or novel and you have a name come up that you don't recognise from an army book, they're dead. They're dead. You know they're dead. You know they're dead. As soon as they get a model, they're probably not going to die. Simple as. Simple as. It just is what it is. Even in the Horus Heresy, this is the thing. As soon as you come across somebody who doesn't have... Horus Aximand, right? Horus Aximand is the one person I think has a model. Let me just have a little look here, because I don't want to say Horus Aximand model. Here we go. Does he have a model? He does have a model. Excellent, good. Right, so... no, it was a collector edition model. Okay, so it wasn't even something that came out on a standard thing. Okay, no problem. So, Aximand dies. Sorry, spoilers, but he does die in Saturnine, right? He dies. That is the one example of a character, because I saw it the other day, a Horus Aximand model, and I quite liked it, and I thought, that's pretty cool. It is the one time I know of where a character has died and still has a model in the setting. Where they have the balls to kill off somebody. And I literally think they were painting themselves into a corner when they did that as well. I don't think they had any other option but to kill him at that stage, because Loken at this point, who's supposed to be their poster child for like the cool characters in the Horus Heresy, had done naff all up until that point and actually going after his old comrade and taking them down one by one. All he'd done is lost to Abaddon, right, and still lived because, you know, we can't have anyone dying or you won't buy the models. So... if you know of any other examples of people, not Yarrick, who have died, because I don't think he's dead, of people who have died in the setting and still have models, please tell me in the description down below. I'm sure there are some. There's got to be some in there. But I would always say the exception proves the rule as well, though. That by the sheer amount of how little there are, that will prove the rule. But anyway, moving on. The status quo in 40k must be observed to sell you models, and power creep is just another vector for the setting to twist more money out of the fan base. Let's be honest, 40k is, all 40k is a massive advertisement for the models that Games Workshop sell and cultivate, and in that it is incredibly successful as a setting. For those of us who see the true potential of the setting to be something remarkable and genre-changing on the level of Lord of the Rings, however, this is a kind of travesty that this is all 40k will ever amount to being, is an advertisement. A large, cool, bloated, messy advertisement for toy soldiers. And that's a tragedy, because the potential is there for the Lord of the Rings to be, for Warhammer 40k to be a sci-fi Lord of the Rings, to be the one thing that literally takes things from all other genres and goes, bang, there you go. Genre changing, genre defining. And I think it's being squandered by bloat, because Games Workshop cannot get enough of your money. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. This video's gone on long enough and I've rambled for long enough. I love you all long time. I'll be back with some more hobby nightmares tomorrow. Love you all. Have a really good day and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Have an excellent one. See ya.